Hi everyone, I'm Dom Griffin, I'm a film critic and you're watching the Armchair Auteur. This is an ongoing video series I do where we talk about new movies, old movies, screenplay analysis, television series reviews, that sort of thing. So if you like movies and you like movie adjacent popular culture and you like to see somebody pick those things apart, you're in the right place and you should consider subscribing. Today we're reviewing the new Scream movie. Technically it's Scream 5, but it's just called Scream, but we'll call it Scream 2.0. And in a lot of ways, it's the perfect movie for me to start 2022 off with. Now, technically, my first review of the year was of the 355, a film I covered for Looper, but that movie is such unrepentant dog shit that we're gonna pretend that I never saw it. I ended 2021 reviewing an improbable sequel to one of my favorite movies of all time, an absolutely perfect film from the 90s being updated as a meta-commentary for a brand new era. And here I am again, looking back at a film series that began with a perfect original entry being revisited for new audiences. Only where Lana Wachowski was able to engage with the franchise she helped create on her own terms, Wes Craven is no longer with us, so a cadre of loyal Scream fans must act in his stead. Back in 2020 when this film first got announced, I made a video about Scream 3 and why, even though it's the worst film in the Scream franchise, that it's unique and special. And in that video I said this.
So we have a new movie coming out. There's going to be a Scream 5. It's going to be directed by the guys who made that movie Ready or Not. And most of the original cast is coming back with a couple of new additions. And this is going to be the first Scream movie that doesn't involve Wes Craven, because he's passed, R.I.P. Wes the God. And it is not going to be written by Kruger or Williamson. Like, neither one of them is writing. I think Williamson's producing. So this is going to be the first Scream movie in the franchise entirely created by a brand new creative team. So I'm kind of curious to see what happens, honestly. Like, I wish Wes Craven was still alive. That would be tight. He's not. I do wish Williamson was writing himself. He's not. It's being covered by a guy named James Vanderbilt, who, as some of you will know, wrote David Fincher's Zodiac, but as some of you will also know, also wrote The Sandman's Murder Mystery, so who knows. But the one thing I truly hope about this new movie that I'm very excited about and I hope is good is that they have watched Scream 3 as many times as I have, and they can learn about what works within the franchise and, honest to God, what doesn't.
Well, it's here now, and I'm happy to report that they understood the assignment. Scream 2.0 is a shrewd and inspired sequel that honors everything about the franchise that spawned it, but isn't afraid to take some wild risks in its quest to forge a new path forward for a series that seemed like it had no plausible future. Not unlike another brand that recently went the 2.0 route. It features the holy trinity of the Scream franchise, Sidney, Dewey, and Gale, but centers a new cast of youths, mostly comprised of actors who either weren't born or couldn't yet walk when the original was released. In the interest of keeping things spoiler-free, I won't get into the characters' genetic lineage or too many details that could accidentally spoil the identity or identities of the new Ghostface killer and or killers. But suffice to say, just how Scream 3 attempted to reckon with the ever-changing nature of meta-narratives and fourth wall breaking, and Scream 4 tried to update its aesthetic from the decidedly 90s Gen Xer vibe of the original films to something a little more millennial friendly at the dawn of the YouTube era, Scream 2.0 is distinctly a movie about this current generation of media consumption, without ever devolving into TikTok memes or other condescending cultural reduction. It's less for Gen Z than it is about the way corporations tell stories to them and the inherent toxicity of the fandoms that spring up in defense of or in brutal opposition to those same stories. The original Scream was a movie that was inspired by the Halloween franchise and ended up begetting Halloween H2O, a very 90s and self-aware take on Mike Myers, but Scream 2.0 is a movie about the world Halloween Kills exists in, and the weird Ouroboros way IP is repeatedly cannibalized. Now, I loved 2.0. I loved Scream 2.0. I thought it was fantastic. But as much as I dug it, there were some elements that just didn't work for me at all. Actually, really just one specific element of the movie where I get what they were going for. I like I understand it in principle, but it is such a dumb, bad, and laughable idea for this new movie to be doing that I cackled in the theater when I first heard it and realized that's what they were doing, because it feels that decision was made in the interest of both differentiating itself from what has come before it and with experimenting with trying something new. I can't totally hate it, you know what I mean? If someone is trying really hard to make something new that feels fresh and different, even if it doesn't fully work, I kind of have to tip my hat to them, so long as it's not the worst. I like that impulse and I support it. I can't really hate on it even if it doesn't work for me specifically. quickly. The new final girl, played by In the Heights star Melissa Barrera, is maybe my least favorite performer in the film, but everyone else is really fantastic, especially You Season 2 standout Jenna Ortega, who immediately steals the show in the opening sequence, itself a pitch-perfect update of Drew Barrymore's iconic intro. Visually, directors Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillette of Radio Silence do a great job honoring Craven's style while making the film their own in subtle ways. And James Vanderbilt's script, co-penned by Ready or Not scribe Guy Busick, captures the spirit of Williamson's writing without being too mired in his exact rhythms and tics as to make the film feel dated. There's a scene in The Matrix Resurrections where agents at Thomas Anderson's video game company are debating what the original Matrix stood for, and there's a very similar scene like that in Scream 2.0 about the stab films, the movies within the movies about the ongoing Woodsboro murders that pop up as gags in every sequel.
Stupid. Ooh, I love scary movies.
But in this one, mimicking the rule sequence from the original Scream, they nail on the head what makes these movies so special, that they're slasher thriller whodunits riddled with pop culture commentary. So really, if you have a compelling mystery, some grisly kills, and movie references that feel natural enough, you've got a good Scream movie. Mystery in this one is solid. It's the kind of movie where anyone could reasonably be the killer, but not in a way that the first film is. Like, the first film's constructed so well as a mystery that, like, as you're going along, you're like, you know, it could kind of be anyone. Like, it's actually a really sound, tight mystery whodunit thing, to be entirely honest. This one is more, obviously, very meta, and as such, the characters spend much of the runtime just accusing each other of being the killer in like a very blunt and kind of like right in your face way. And because the narrative and the structure is so chaotic, it's believable that almost any character that they make a joke about being the killer could be the killer. And I was kind of impressed by that. I figured out who it was sort of early on, and then I was like, no, that seems like too obvious. And then I was like, oh, that would make it better because it's so obvious. And I was like, no, maybe not. And like, they actually genuinely kept me guessing just through the ridiculous tone of the movie. So the mystery, check. Mystery was good. The references and pop cultural commentary worked for me in the movie, largely because it's dealing with some ideas and things I've been talking about a lot on the channel over the past year. So to me, I was like, hell yeah, put that in the movie. Let's talk about it. Let's start a dialogue. But I can tell that the sort of blunt and overt way they handled these themes is going to rub some people the wrong way. Like, some people are going to watch it and think it's like too on the nose, but I didn't care. I thought it was perfect. And as for the kills, this movie's violence feels meaner and more visceral in a way I didn't quite expect. The way Wes Craven did the kills in the first Scream and the sequels is such that the movie itself is very self-aware and like kind of quirky and like 90s and like clever and stuff. But every time someone dies, every time somebody bites it, it's like genuinely intense and pretty stone serious and realistic. Yes, obviously, every time the killer moves the knife and you hear that like shrink sound, like that's not realistic, you know what I mean? Because that's not what knives do when you swing them through the air when they make that sound. But the actual kills themselves was pretty tough and intense in a way that felt like it was cutting through the commentary about like 90s celebrity culture and the dawn of reality TV and stuff like that. Like, in the Scream movies, all these people talk in circles around analysis and being self-aware about the tropes of horror movies. But when someone gets stabbed, they get stabbed and they die. It doesn't matter how clever they are or how they saw it coming. Like, death is it's real. That's like it really kind of like grounds everything, right? In this movie, some of the kills are like more violent and like more like creative, but they don't feel like these blunt, realistic things that Wes Craven did in the first Scream movies. They feel more like, well, what they are, which is like a couple of like horror film nerds getting to make a Scream movie and honoring Wes Craven. So like, they're a little bit more movie-like. Like, they work for the context of the film. They work like thematically for what the movie's about. But I remember being kind of taken out of a couple of the kills being like, this is such a like movie thing. This is like what happens in horror movies, like for horror fans. Obviously, like, the Omar Epps kill in Scream 2 is actually a little bit like that. Like, it's a little bit too clever. This is more like that than like some of the kills in the first movie, I guess. Oh God, as I'm saying that, I realize that like the Rose McGowan kill in the first movie is also like really over the top. So maybe the original Scream wasn't that realistic, but I just mean that to me, the tenor of the murder felt a very specific way, and here it feels decidedly different, but like it's for in story reasons, so I guess it's okay. God's honest truth is that I'm an easy mark for this movie. I don't want to say I was gonna love it regardless, because if it sucked, I was gonna completely eviscerate it. But to me, a lover of the Scream franchise, I feel like it does the franchise that I adore so much pretty good justice. They really had me in the bag the minute they made a joke about Courtney Cox's ugly ass bangs in Scream 3. Whether the movie will resonate with people who don't have a pre-existing connection to that series or care about it or anything, that kind of remains to be seen. I can safely say that like 90% of the people who love the Scream movies are probably gonna love this one too. And I sort of think that the 10% of the people who love the other Scream movies but don't like this one, it might be because you're the 10% that the movie is about. So yeah, those are my thoughts about Scream 2.0. Thought it was an awesome movie, definitely worth seeing in theaters. I know at the moment, like, people are like extra hesitant to go to the theater, and I totally get that, but speaking from experience, movie theaters at the moment are probably not going to be that packed, so if you do want to see this, see it at a matinee, it's totally worth checking out. Really, really fun movie. Sort of the opposite of the typical January release that the 355 was. I'm really glad I got to see this and wash all of that off of my dermis. But yeah, Scream 2.0, fantastic. I think you guys should check it out. I completely recommend it wholeheartedly. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you have not subscribed yet, please subscribe. Hit the little bell thing so you get notifications when I put out new videos. And if you have any thoughts about Scream, Wes Craven, horror movies, media, whatever, you can talk to me in the comments below, because that's always fun to talk about movies with you guys. So yeah, thank you all for watching. Hope you haven't broken any of your New Year's resolutions. And if you did, I hope you had fun doing it. So thank you all again. I'll see you soon. Hope everyone's doing well, staying safe, being good to yourselves and each other. See you in the next video.